Hello, everyone, and welcome to United Way, Live United. I want to welcome to the program today Shannon Satanovich, who is the director of the YMCA Educational Services for the YMCA of Greater New Orleans. And I'm very pleased to have with us as well Mr. Charles Brown, who is the executive director of the New Orleans Public Library. And we're here today to discuss literacy, because this is something that is so important to this community. And I want to start with you, Shannon. Right before the mics went on, we were talking about the YES program, which the YMCA has had for a long time, and it stands for the YMCA Educational Services. And we were discussing how I remember many years ago first being introduced to YES, and there was this wonderful book that had been published, and people that had been graduates of the program, had essays and poems and short stories, and it was just so beautifully written and so emotional to be able for them to share their story and for us to read it. And then you were just telling me this is an ongoing program. You and the library have been partners for a long time.
Well, YMCA Educational Services has existed since 1977, when a group of pastors looked around the city of New Orleans and said there's a great need in this community for adult literacy, for anyone who cannot read or is having trouble reading to come and get classes for free. So since 1977, this is a service that we have been offering, and students come for so many reasons, Terry. They come because they want a better job, they want to read to their kids, but for whatever the reason is, we offer them free classes at the New Orleans Public Library at 2 of their locations. And all we ask is that they have a desire to learn and to come to class, and they are some of the most inspirational people you're going to meet.
Now, what are those 2 locations?
Well, we're located at the main branch of the library, which is downtown at Tulane and Loyola, and we also have a site at the New Orleans East Public Library on Reed Boulevard at Lake Forest.
And so now, is there any chance we might expand, or we fill the classes, right?
The classes are always filled. You know, it's a sad thing that there are so many people in our city who need these services. And when I say they need our services, it's not that they have trouble reading, but that so many cannot read at all. And we have a gentleman who's been working for 30 years at one of New Orleans' old line restaurants, and he can read maybe at a 2nd grade level. He's a great chef, but he said at this point in his life he wants to retire able to read. So he comes to our classes every afternoon, still in his chef's uniform, working on his phonics, working on his writing.
And those are some of the stories that I recall. And there were a number of success stories, so many since you began this program. But the figures here, the statistics, are a little bit staggering.
Yes, they are.
And I know that it's just amazing to me. And maybe, Charles, this is where you can weigh in, because talk a little bit about the library. You have a program that you started with, or the Library Foundation,
right,
and that you're trying to raise the roof, shall we say, on literacy. People need to know that the gentleman who's working at this restaurant, who's done so all his life, he is not alone. There are thousands out there like him.
That's true. The program that the library is a part of is Turning the Page, and it's been initiated by the Library Foundation. Irvin Mayfield, this is really his brainchild. He's everywhere in New Orleans.
Oh, wow, that's fabulous.
He's very focused on literacy. And so we've involved 10 other parish libraries. So most of the libraries in southeastern Louisiana are involved in this initiative. People can learn more about it by going to letsturnthepage.org. And can get a full picture of what's going on at our library here in New Orleans, as well as the 10 other libraries that are involved. But it has 4 major areas of focus. One is early literacy and readiness for school. There are so many children here in the city of New Orleans. The very first time, Terry, that they ever see a book is when they start school. They've never had a story read to them. So, I mean, they begin, according to studies, at least 18 months behind their counterparts who have been in a more educational home environment.
I was going to say that's maybe even more, because United Way works so very diligently with other nonprofits to make sure that early childhood learning is something that begins from almost the time of birth.
Right. And fortunately now there's, I think, a national movement, because I know that there have been studies done, and conservatives and liberals alike have identified early childhood education as being one of the top 5 needs of the United States. And so I'm hoping that there'll be more resources and more interest in this very important area. The other 3 areas of the Let's Turn the Page focus is school success, because once again, if a child has not mastered reading by the 4th grade, that child is going to be lost in the educational system. And we have staggering statistics here in the state of Louisiana and in New Orleans. At least the last study that I read, that there's a test taken in the spring by fourth graders, and 34% of those students here in the city of New Orleans did not pass the test. So that's over a third who were not proficient by the end of fourth grade. And the figures statewide are even more alarming. And then we also, the libraries are working in the adult literacy area and ESL, English as a Second Language. The New Orleans Public Library hopes to do more in the future, but right now our partnership with the YMCA has been invaluable in that area. And then also digital literacy. Once again, there's so many individuals in our community who have not had a need to learn how to use a computer. The library offers classes and personal assistance to individuals who don't even know what a mouse is. And yet almost any job you apply for in this market requires that you do so online. And so those are the four major areas, school readiness for 0 through 5, school success for those children in grades K through 12, adult literacy and English as a second language, and then digital literacy.
I said, it makes me so happy to see both of you here, pardon me, and listen to what you're saying, because this is just a great partnership at work. And as you've pointed out, Shannon, it's been a partnership for quite some time. And if you listen then to what Charles has just said, in a sense, we hope to put the YES program out of business. And I only say that, because if we can reach the children early enough so we won't have the adults. But it is something that's here. You were giving some facts and figures, and Shannon, I don't know if you have some more. You had sent me some wonderful information. But it was just again, as Charles said, almost alarming that you were talking about some of the people who don't have, have no understanding really of our language, not even the second language,
right.
That they have not been to school. They have been school dropouts, etc. But so here you are. Maybe you could share some of these. 1 in 4 adults in Louisiana does not have a high school diploma.
Well, that's a problem, because when you look at the jobs that are available, even jobs that are, let's say, very entry level, you need to have a GED or a high school diploma. We have so many students who come to us who are reading at a second and third grade level, and they say, what I really need is a job. Can you help me find one? But honestly, what can you find for them to do if they don't have basic skills? I was talking to a local restaurant owner who told me he could not understand why his staff was not doing a good job cleaning the restaurant, because he had taken great care to write out the instructions. And then he realized that they could not read the instructions he was giving them. So he has learned that he has to do his instructions orally. And we see that so often, Terry, people who come into our classes because they are desperate for a job or a better job. But then they see how long it might take them to actually get the GED. Some get discouraged, but a lot of them, they stick it out. They are determined to make a better life for themselves and for their kids. And also, as Charles was saying, the early childhood piece is so critical. We have parents who come to us who want to read to their kids. We had a grandmother who came in to our classroom in tears because every time her little granddaughter would come up to her and say, Momo, please read to me, she had to push her away. Aww. And she just said, I cannot live like this. I cannot keep turning her away when she wants to hear a story. So our goal is to give adults those skills that they need so they can support the work that's happening in the K through 12 system. And I think most of us we're pleased to see that schools are improving in New Orleans. But if kids are going home to parents who cannot read, we need parents to underscore the lessons that children are getting in the classroom.
And I think that's probably major. I was going to ask you both, but then it might be just more subjective than anything. But why we seem to have such a high literacy rate? Is it because we did have problems with the school? Mm-hmm. Is it because of Katrina and how it left problems there with the buildings and how schools reorganized? I think you could say yes to all those, but does it also become a cultural thing?
I think we are looking at a problem that has its roots in history. When you have schools that were given the barest minimum of school supplies, what do you expect to have come out of that school? So, we're looking at a problem that has historical roots, but also Katrina was a factor. I can see that we have had a lot of young adults who were displaced by Katrina, who went to other schools in other parts of the country and were shocked when they realized how far behind they really were. came back home, came to us and said, I had to drop out of high school after Katrina because I just couldn't keep up. Can you help me get my GED? And I think part of it, Terry, is maybe people just did not realize, the skills that people were getting in other parts of the country, and Katrina cracked that open
and
in a lot of
world
ways.
To see.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
I think also, and I'm relatively new to New Orleans. I've only been here about 2.5 years, but I have lived and grown and been familiar with other blue-collar communities across, Detroit, my hometown of St. Louis, Baltimore. And in those cities, as I think was the case here in New Orleans with the hospitality industry and the ports, if you had a strong back and a willingness to work, you could really achieve the American dream.
Again, cultural, because it
Right.
was true blue collar and then some.
Right. But you can no longer do that. And so as Shannon was saying, there's a historical piece to all of this. And these are the results that we're dealing with today.
And so it's not even reading it. Also, when you mentioned the digital age,
Right.
because think about it, even on the port or in restaurants, it's things you're talking about, not just to clean up, but when you check out now, it's electronic. It's on the
Right.
cash register, or you put this by, or
Exactly.
you're doing all these things that you have to have the basic skill set.
Exactly. I mean, the days of going from shop to shop and picking up a paper application are long gone. So we have our students who come to us who need that help with filling out the applications. They don't have a computer in the home. They don't have access to one. They're afraid of them in some ways, especially our older adults. So part of our program is having that technology in the classroom so they can get used to seeing it. They can ask questions. They can make mistakes if they need to, just so they have those skills that they can do their job searches on their own.
Now, when you're saying that, you're talking about the classes that are being held at the libraries, right?
Yes.
So this is good. Well, you know what? That also, I think, many of us believe it can sometimes be a little bit harder to teach the old dog new tricks, as we say. Right. So to be in that comfort level of
Right.
other seniors or other just adults,
Yeah, and
who don't have the same skill, and they're all there because they know they want to be. It's
That's
not
the
a forced
thing.
activity.
Absolutely. I mean, we've had teachers from the school system come to us and say how much they've enjoyed volunteering or working for us because we don't have problems with discipline. These are adults who choose to be there. Our adults range from anywhere from 18 to, I think the oldest I've ever had was 81 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
But they're all there for the same purpose, and they're very supportive of each other. They know that as adults they have jobs, they have kids, they have responsibilities to take care of. When these adults see that their friend who usually sits next to them has not been in class for a few days, they will pick up the phone and call. And that doesn't happen in the kindergarten classroom or the first grade classroom. But among adults, they share with each other what their worries are. They pool their resources together if they need to. So it's a very supportive environment. I can't imagine how intimidating it must be for someone to walk in and say, I cannot read, can you please help me? So at the YMCA, we make it a point to create a very loving environment that supports the whole person. I always say if a student comes to you and is hungry, they are not going to learn. So if they're hungry, we need to address that. If they're having some health issues, we need to connect them with resources. If a student has an abscessed tooth, they're not going to learn. So we have to address the whole person. It would be so much easier, Terry, if we just had to worry about phonics and math, but the reality is we have to deal with the whole person. And we're happy to because we love our students, we get to know them, and we want to help them.
And again, I see the symmetry here because you're talking about the whole person and as adults, and we're talking about the whole child
Right.
and other places too. Again, the cyclical, trying to break it, trying to make it better.
I'd like to also, if I may, just add, Shannon mentioned that so many of her students are aspiring for a high school diploma or the GED. And one of the things that the library is currently exploring, and we hope will be successful in this effort, is identifying the necessary resources to actually offer an online high school certification program through the public library. The Los Angeles Public Library in January became the first public library to have a program like this, and we're really beating the bushes to find resources so that we can be the second public library in the country to offer something like this. And we think the library provides a non-threatening, nurturing environment. We have the technology available. We have staff to assist people with the technology to help them complete their high school certification requirements. And so we're working with a program that has a regional accreditation. And so, if successful with the program, these individuals will have a certified high school diploma.
That is truly amazing, and it is something that is definitely needed, as you pointed out again, to get even the most simple of jobs these days. Because we're talking about college students, those who are fortunate enough to go to college, can be in such incredible debt. And one typo or misspelled word could knock them out of the running for a job because it's just that tight, that market. So if you drill down into others at this level, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I want you both to tout a little bit of your successes, too, that you've done, but as you just did, Charles, and definitely, Shanna, I'm looking at some of the information you sent and what Yes has done. But one thing I have to bring up is resources. You're both saying resources, pooling resources. Okay, we know nonprofit world, resources means funding.
Exactly.
It's sometimes frightening to see what is happening. And here you are with Turn the Page. You want that, Charles, to be, the biggest thing, make New Orleans the most literate.
Yes.
Literacy in the world. We can't do that without programs now that Shannon has at the Y. We have United Way, who tries to fund pieces for as many things as we can. But it takes everybody out there. When they say it takes a village, it's going to take a lot more than that. Right. And I know that at the library, you've been saying that with your help, you can make it the most literate city in America. Well, in New Orleans and here at our United Way, we say that, you can change tomorrow starting today, and only you can be part of the change. So that means everybody who's listening, please understand this is something you can't change what's going on in our community to make it better, to make it stronger for everyone, unless you have the resources, unless you are dedicated to participation. And that can mean give, advocate, volunteer. And there are so many opportunities to do that.
Are there? I mean, one of the things that we always need help with, and the community has been very good about assisting, we need to get the word out that our classes are there. So many of our students cannot read the flyers that we post, so we depend on the community to share with their churches, with social groups, that these classes exist. So we've had some good luck finding volunteers who have been willing to hang flyers in churches, hang flyers in places where there are a lot of people, just so the word can get out. When people say, how do people find out about your program? It is word of mouth. So we ask the community, to please contact us at the YMCA. We can send them flyers electronically. They can print out. They can put on their Facebook, because these days that's how so much information is getting shared. If you tweet about us or you put us on Facebook, I'm blown away at the response we get just by having one or two neighborhood groups who have put us on their Facebook pages, and the response that we've gotten. It has been astonishing. So people can definitely be advocates for adult learners by just sharing information about our program. We also need help, obviously, with funding. Cash is always appreciated, but we also appreciate office supplies. Our students, I always joke, I think they're eating the pencils, not writing with them, because they go through them so quickly. And we've had wonderful volunteers in the community who have collected school supplies for our students so we can share it with them.
And that's a good point, because I think so many times we think about the beginning of school, or sometimes they also do it around holiday times. They say school supplies, but immediately you're thinking of the little ones.
Exactly.
And oftentimes we even forget our high school, and as obviously we've gotten older to the next spectrum, and then our seniors, our adults,
right,
will tend to forget that.
And our adults are going to give the resources that they have to their kids. So if you're a 30-year-old parent with me working on your reading and you have only a limited amount of money, you are giving that to your kids for their schooling. And that parent will show up to our classroom with maybe a pen, no notebook. But so any donations like that are helpful for them.
Go ahead, Charles.
I was just wondering if I could add just one additional component of the importance of literacy. We've talked about success, educational success and employment, but also, crime is something that's very much discussed in our community. And there are many root causes of crime. Poverty can be one, parental neglect can be another. But I don't think many people realize that the lack of literacy is yet another very important factor. A vast majority of the juveniles in the juvenile justice system are functionally illiterate. And national studies have shown that adults in prison, approximately 60% of them, are functionally illiterate. So that's one of the things that contributes to our crime problem. And I'm not sure if people truly realize that addressing literacy also helps. I can't say it's a panacea, but it certainly is one of the things that can help to address our crime issue here in our community.
And Charles, it is some of the information that you had in that Turn the Page is talking about 66% of students who cannot read proficiently by the end of 4th grade will end up in jail or on welfare.
Exactly.
Literally reading, the ability to read, it's your whole life. Yes. I have to tell a quick story because it involves the library, all right, the Y2, which was always used by our family, as I'm the oldest of 3 children, and my parents were young and newlyweds, and when they first got married, they'd both had strong careers, or were trying to build strong careers. But as children added to the family, Mom became a stay-at-home mom, take care of myself and my brothers. And Dad was building his career in business. And our two recreational points were the Y and the library. Because the YMCA that we were fortunate enough to live next door, or not next door, but very near, had all the things we could run around, and in a city that often had inclement weather in the winter and other things, you had all these fun things to do there. But also, we had the library. And my father was wonderful at doing a little bit of the Tom Sawyer. Remember when he kind of, cajoles all his friends into painting the fence for him? I can remember coming home, and it's a Friday night, and other kids are going out, and they're going to do this or that. And my dad and my mom said, "We're going to the library tonight." Library? Shh, don't tell anyone. We're going to learn about the Dewey Decimal System. And we went to the library. And I think long before it even started, my parents would pull the little chairs, and my father's this great big 6'6" man, sit on those little chairs, and we had reading circles. We were learning about Dewey Decimal, and then my brothers and I would go running across the library. I'm not sure the librarians appreciated it, but trying to solve the mystery of the Dewey Decimal System and coming back to find the books and reading, and that love of reading.
Exactly.
It set me on a course for life that I've been very satisfied with. And all my brothers, we all did well. And all the friends who liked to read when the bookmobile would come to school. It was amazing. And then again, so you're reading, you've got that going on, but you could go to the YMCA too and not only have the athleticism, but you had programs for the kids. And a lot of times it were field trips and things like this. But what were they? Based upon the stories or the things or what you were reading that you were learning about. So I think on behalf of just myself personally, I say thank you to the YMCA and thank you to the library system, because what an amazing, generous childhood you gave me, you gave my brothers, and so many of the kids I grew up with.
That's a wonderful story.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And just like you're saying, Terry, you learned your love of reading from your parents who showed an enthusiasm for it. I was very proud yesterday when one of Charles's librarians at the main library came into my office and she said, "One of your students has started checking books out at the circulation desk." And this student is so proud. She said, "You know, I'm in classes upstairs at the Learning Center." And the librarian said, "Yes, and you're doing very well," because she's starting out with these very basic, easy reader books for adults. The library has been kind enough to supply to the public, for those who need things that are a little easier to read. But she's building up her skills, and those are skills that she's going to take home to her children. Because when her children see that Mom values education and values reading, they will take it seriously. We had one student who was working with one of our volunteers one-on-one, learning to read, and it turned out his son also struggled with dyslexia. The father had it as well, and the son started coming to classes because he saw that his dad was doing it. So it became a father-son event where they would get tutored together, but also was bonding time for them. It's just wonderful to see. But if your parents are taking something very seriously, the child will take it seriously.
That's something I'd like to add, Terry, based on your story and also what Shannon just mentioned. For those listeners who are really literate, who are already literate, they need to understand the importance of them spending time with their young children. Reading 20 minutes a day can make all the difference in the world. And for their older children, reading is like basketball or the piano. It's practice, practice, practice. And so to encourage you to try to find an area that their child is interested in, and encouraging them to read in that area, especially during the summer months. We would love to have them participate in the library's summer reading program. But in addition to that, if they're not, for one reason or another, not able to, summer is a time that's very important that children read, because they have a tendency to lose some of what they've learned during the previous school year if they don't. So I encourage young parents, read to your child at least 20 minutes a day. And for parents who have older children, encourage them to read just like they practice the piano or play basketball.
Read a book, change your life, or
yes.
someone else's.
Right.
Exactly.
I want to go back to just some of the statistics here, because I want to toot the horn again of the YMCA and the library because of what you've done. This is amazing. Shannon, since 1977, you've taught over 15,000 adult learners with the help of committed volunteers. It's the only literacy agency in GNO that focuses on the lowest level readers. They read well below the 9th grade, or as your case, that don't read at all.
Let's be honest. I mean, our mission is to help those who read below the 9th grade level, meaning we're not a GED program. Our job, I always tell people, coming to us is like coming to the gym. Work out with us first, and then we'll send you to the boxing ring, which is the GED program. And they understand that, because you can imagine, Terry, we have women who walk in. They say, I'm 40 years old. I've been out of school for 25 years. I don't want to go to a GED class and sit next to some 17-year-old who knows fractions, who knows decibels, who knows all that. I said, I completely understand. Come to us. We're smaller. We can give you a little more attention. But then at some point, baby bird has to leave the nest, and we will push you. You have to go on to those classes. So that's the atmosphere that we have tried to create, is to support those who are just not quite ready for GED classes. The sad truth is most of the students who come to us are below the 2nd and 3rd grade level. But you know what? It's not an easy group to teach because it's very labor intensive. You know, it takes a lot of resources to work with them. But I believe when someone comes to you and says, I want to learn to read, we are compelled as a nonprofit to do it. The WISE mission is we look at the New Orleans community and we say, what is the need? The need is a program that serves those who are not quite ready for the GED. So if that means we have to work with them on their phonics 4 days a week, I guess it's going to be phonics 4 days a week. So,
but it is, you can give that type of support, that nurturing, again, that will grow their confidence and then include their want to learn.
Exactly.
And engagement as by checking out a book, which I think is marvelous. And this also goes back to something that Charles had said, that children with parents in school or training, and you said this as well, are less likely to drop out of school, and that's the National Institute of Literacy, and that a mother's educational attainment is the most significant predictor of a child's future educational success, more significant than income level or employment status, and that's from the Educational Testing Services. So when you hear something like that,
there's no
wow.
doubt. When mama reads, the baby reads. That's it. We have students who come to us who say, we never had a calendar in the house. They don't know how to keep a calendar. Just like Charles was saying, the first time they see a book is when they come to a library program or when they come to school. So if the parent is reading in the household, the child is going to read. They will see books as something that's fun. It's closeness with a parent or a loved one. But so many kids in the city do not have that, unfortunately.
And I know that kind of plays into something that United Way is also involved in, which is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library that we have working in several of the parishes that we serve. And it reminds me a bit of a program we had, again, when I was a child, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. But it was weekly readers and books that came through school, and a fly went by, and Dr. Seuss, and One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish. All these things I remember. I was in kindergarten, but I can almost recite chapter and verse some of those books, because you do learn and you love them. And waiting for that book to arrive, to be your own, was the most satisfying and important thing that I can remember. And so for children to be able to adopt that same kind of feeling, that passion, I think is going to make us all just become a stronger city. And
then becomes, well, what can we do? Let's work with who's in front of us. We need to expand the resources we have so programs like ours can be expanded in the library system, because we have a waiting list right now for our program for non-readers until the month of August.
One of the, I identified the four key components of the Turn the Page initiative, but a fifth is really creating an awareness and an advocacy in our community. Our community has to understand the importance of literacy and education. We're competing, we're an international, we're competing in a global economy, and we can no longer consider education not a top priority in this community. And literacy is a major component of that.
Folks, we have run out of time. Please, listen, I know that went by quickly. You're going to come back, right?
We'd love
definitely.
to.
Please give a website, a number where people can get in contact for more information.
Well, people can contact YMCA Educational Services at area code 504-596-3842, and our website is www.ymcaneworleans, all one word, .org.
Okay. And for the Let's Turn the Page initiative, you can go to letsturnthepage.org for more information about what's going on in the region in this area. And then for the New Orleans Public Library, it's nolalibrary.org.
Fabulous. I want to thank you both so much for joining me today. Shannon Satanovich, who is the director of the YMCA Educational Services, Charles Brown, the executive director of the New Orleans Public Library. I'm Terry Westerfield, and for United Way, let's live united.